You're listening to Sean Henry's Becoming, a podcast that focuses on the emotional journey of an entrepreneur from the thought of their business to the execution and beyond. I am your host, Sean Henry, a serial entrepreneur, speaker, real estate investor, landlord, 21-year retired Army veteran, and author of When the Bank Says No. I'm sitting down with entrepreneurs to talk about their processes and the lessons they've learned along the way. Fasten your seatbelts. The journey is rough, but rewarding.
Right, I
Interview.
have another one, DJ High
Mm-hmm.
Key. I have many a DJ friends. You know what I'm saying? DJ
Mm-hmm.
Diggs, DJ Ray Diggy. And you know, if I can't get it, I'm gonna refer you to somebody else
Mm-hmm.
who I know is gonna get the job done. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
A lot of people that kind of helped me, like when I first started, I would always ask questions. So I have a friend. He's not really a friend, more of a acquaintance, because I followed him on IG and I just seen that he was really, really doing the thing. He a DJ in Texas, DJ T Fresh. And you know, I've messaged probably a lot of DJs, but he was the first one to actually respond. And he would say, you know, I appreciate you for reaching out. He was like, hey, you know, he's not really big, but he's big enough where he has a big enough fan base. So, you know, he's really popping. And so I asked him, I said, yo, man, you got any pointers, any tips? Because I'm always looking for ways that I can use and growth and things of that nature. He would say, you have to fall in love with the practice. He said, you're going to have to fall in love with practicing, because that's when it's just going to come natural when it's time for showtime. Like, even when I did my first wedding, he was like, oh, wedding? He was like, oh, that's where it's at. He's like, you good? How did it go? And he would follow up and things of that nature. Even DJ High Key, she actually started doing my locks when I was in college, and now she's a DJ. And we kind of share stories back and forth, and you know, just supporting one another. And DJ AD down here in Macon, he's worldwide. He's more of a bigger DJ, but you know, it was me just stepping out on faith and just sending him a message one day, say, hey man, you mind if I link up with you one day, just to kind of, you know, see how you do things and see what takeaways I can take from it. You know, he's always responding to me and things of that nature. So, you know, I'm glad and blessed that I'm able to step outside my comfort zone and be able to hustle and being able to meet other people that either is on this journey with me, you know, surpass me, or, you know, by far one of the greatest. So even if I can't do it, I have somebody else that I know, hey, I can refer you to this person. Like, even if it's a photographer, one of my line sisters, she's a photographer, email productions in Atlanta with Mia. It's like, if you need a photographer, every time I'm doing a DJ gig, if it's in Atlanta, I say, hey, do you need a photographer? Because if so, I have one for you. So being able to always, it doesn't hurt to share somebody else's business, because the worst that people can do is say no. You know what I'm saying? But at least you put that out there in the atmosphere that I'm gonna support somebody else. So
That's true. Absolutely. And it comes back
yep,
tenfold.
it comes back tenfold.
So your current business is a DJ. So tell me, I'm not even gonna, after the whole DMV story, I'm not even gonna take it for granted and say it's self-explanatory. So tell us what you do. Let's not do
Well,
that. Right.
well, as a DJ, I just provide DJ services. So if anybody doesn't know what a DJ is, just in case, it's a disc
Mhm.
jockey. So, you know,
Mhm.
the one who provides the entertainment and the music. So, like, for birthday parties, weddings, house parties, corporate events, like anywhere music is needed or anywhere where you need a vibe, you know, that's my job to provide it. So I like to give feedback. I remember, like I said, the one of the businesses that I mentioned earlier, CIC down here, they have their own boutique, style it, they're styling, you know, they do styling and things of that nature. Y'all should definitely hit them up. They was actually probably the first people that booked me. And they had their grand opening for their boutique down here in Warner Robins, and she was the first person that booked me, to say, hey, you know, you said you're a DJ. I said, yeah. She was like, all right, come on. And I don't know if she knew, but I knew that that was my first gig. And I think at the time, I didn't even have all of my equipment. Like, I didn't have speakers at the time. I didn't have a mixer. I just had a controller and a laptop. So I had to find another friend or another DJ that I was kind of in cahoots with down here named DJ Chaos. He was selling at the time, he let me borrow them, but then he ended up selling them to me, for me. So it's all about networking. It's all about talking to people. And of course, you treat people how you want to be treated, I've always been a stickler for that. Like, Ever since I was like in middle school, it was like I was always cool with the people in the lunchroom, and they was like, "How you always getting free food?" It's because I treat people. People are people. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be nasty to everybody. Whether it's the janitor, the principal, the CEO, the lunch lady, your teacher, whoever it may be. I still talking to people with respect. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's kids, I call them sir. I call them ma'am. And it's like, why you gotta call me sir? It's like, because I want you to know that I respect you. You know what I'm saying? You have to, that's how it is. And that's the thing. You have to realize your crowd. You have to realize
Mm-hmm.
the people that's around. So I had an event where it was for a birthday party, but it was I can't remember how old the gentleman turned, but it was like really different for me because it had young people and it had older people. So it's like when I
Mm-hmm.
was playing the older jams, the older people was getting it, but the younger people just sitting around. And then I played the younger
Mm-hmm.
jams. It's like the younger people standing up and dancing, and the older people sitting down, coming up. Can you play some of that? You know what I'm saying? So it was
Mm-hmm.
hard to kind of justify, or see how I was doing, and I had to ask the people at the end, did y'all enjoy yourselves? Because I really wasn't completely sold or sure on it. And then I had to go back and think to myself, like, as long as the people who paid me or who asked for my services had a good time and enjoyed themselves, then I'm good to go. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because every party is different. So, like, I did a Sweet 16 party. Mind you, Sweet 16, I'm definitely far from 16. And I don't know all the stuff that they listen to. I know the mainstream stuff that they listen to, but like
Mm-hmm.
all that, the indie artists and then the underground artists that they listen to, I don't listen to all that. Like when you don't know what they're saying, I don't know any of those people. So it was
Mm-hmm.
kind of hard for me for that one. But then once I found one, I was like, up, I'm gonna play this one next, and they just kept going. So for me, I was like, well, learn something new. I even had to ask my little sister who's 16. I was like, what y'all listen to? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I know what you listen to, but what else? What else y'all got popping right now? So it
And
was.
I think that's what it's gonna. You're always researching in
Uh-huh.
anybody's business. You're not gonna know it 100%.
There
So
you
yeah.
go. You're not going to know
Mm-hmm.
everything. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing as a DJ. Yeah, I'm a DJ, but I don't know every song. You know how many songs are in the world? You know what I'm saying? Good
Mm-hmm.
ones, bad ones. But like I have a terabyte, I have one full terabyte full of music, and then I'm working on a second one now. That's a lot of songs. Not even a gigabyte, a terabyte full of music.
So
Like
what? So for those who are don't know, like me, what is it? What's a terabyte? I've heard like how many songs can a terabyte hold?
that's a lot. So a gigabyte and a terabyte, they're just measurements for storage.
Mhm.
So of course
Mhm.
you have 1 byte, a kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte, that's on the back part. So for example, 1 terabyte is probably equivalent to like 1,000 or 1,020. My measurements may be off, but like 1,020, 1,024 gigabytes. So 1 gigabyte is like 10 the same amount in megabytes. So of course megabyte is smaller. That's probably the most common one people see is like 1 megabyte. Like if you see like the storage on your phone, it'll say you
Mhm.
get like a megabyte full of storage. So then you have a gigabyte, which is a bit bigger, and then a terabyte, of course, is bigger. So for example, if I have like a hard drive that says it's like if you go to the store and it says it has 500 GB, that means that's 500 gigabytes worth of storage that you could have. So for some people that may be a lot. But for a
Mhm.
DJ, you're gonna need a bigger capacity or a bigger storage of music or what is it like a bigger hard drive for that, for lack of better
Mhm.
terms, because you're always constantly getting new music. So as a DJ, you have to stay up to date on what's current. So anytime a new song come out on the radio, I'm always going to go ahead and Shazam it to go ahead and download it or airdrop it to myself so I can add it to a crate. And a crate is pretty much different DJs. They'll do their music differently. So some DJs they'll have it in crates per event, like love songs is one crate. So anything in that folder is just going to be love music. Or they may have another folder or another crate that just has hip hop, R&B, things of that nature, and so forth. So to have a terabyte hard drive, that means you have stored a lot of music. Now, I can't give you a number of music because, of course, if you
Mhm.
carry other things on that hard drive, that's going to take up space too. Me myself, I just use my hard drive. I have a hard drive for music, And then I have a flash drive, which is probably that smaller thing that you use to store like papers and things like that on. I have that for like different documents and things of that nature. So you have different ones, for different capacities.
Okay, so let me ask you, so we can stay on track with the DJ. So while we're here, since you mentioned papers too, what if I were hiring you for your DJ services for an event, what documents would you ask of me, or what would I need to give you? Since you said paper, is there like a contract or anything like that I would need to that you would offer me to complete for your services?
Gotcha. So yeah, so a lot of bigger DJs probably do it that way, where they do a contract. Those are the big time folks, where I'm trying to get. Me, myself, because I'm more so just a solo entrepreneur, what I do is I'll use like different threads that we have. So if we have it's a paper trail. My background's in social work. So if you ain't documented, it didn't happen. So in my mind, if we have this thread or this text message thread of our conversation, then for me, that's our contract, because your word is your bond. If I say I'm going to provide you a service, you said I agree to this service, then I'm going to send you my price and go from there. Now, and eventually, of course, I'm going to go ahead and get to that contract piece where I can just send somebody a document. But, business for me is not a need for it as much, because it's not, as constant as I would want it to be. So for right now, what I use it as, I use Cash App, Sale, things of those nature as the money piece, so that way you can have your receipt. But then I also use our thread as that agreement as well. So even if we have a phone conversation, right after we get off the phone, I'm going to text you what we talked about, so that way we can both be on the same page.
When the bank says no, Airbnb hosting without owning the property. Read how one woman took a bank's rejection for financing and turned it into a lucrative Airbnb business without owning the property. Sean shares her step-by-step process from picking her niche market to furniture purchases, all which led her to achieving superhost status in her first 30 days of hosting with Airbnb. Learn how she made almost $20,000 in less than 7 months while still maintaining her full-time job. New hosts are often unsure of what they need to do, making Airbnb harder than it has to be. Follow her story of determination and perseverance, and learn how you can implement her practices in any of your entrepreneurial endeavors. Go to www.seanhenry.com. That's www.SHUNHENRY to order your copy of When the Bank Says No, Airbnb hosting without owning the property. And then you accept payment via Zelle, PayPal, Cash App, those.
Okay. Whatever works for people, because everybody has something different. Technology is ever evolving, so everybody's different. So for me, a lot of people have Cash App. I didn't even have Cash App until my sister told me about it, and I was like, what is a Cash App? So, then I realized you could get a card from me too. And I was like, oh, this is pretty neat. So some people may, some bigger businesses that have experience with Cash App may not think Cash App works for them. But then again, they also may not just be starting off as well. Me, I'm just starting off. So for me, it works better for me. It's more manageable because I know how to work it. I know how it works. And I know that's a lot convenient for some people. So that's how I do it. So whether it's Cash App, whether they want to do check, whatever the case may be. And then I also let them know, hey, I need a deposit, 4 weeks prior, and then the final payment is either due a week prior, 2 week prior, depending on the timing of when they need the event, is normally when like deposits and final balances and things like that are due, because of course time is money. So I don't want to show up to a place where, you didn't pay me yet, but then at the same time you need the services, and then I do the whole thing, and then it's like, okay, have a great one. It's like, excuse me, we're forgetting something. Hold up. I don't want to be that guy, but I want to be that guy.
Let's take care of the business part prior to rendering the service.
There you go. And so a lot of times people who, want to be, people who you're close with, that's a lot of times that's what they try to do, is because, you cool with them. They expect, oh, I'm cool with Scoob. She'll let me slide, things of that nature. And it's kind of like, no, ma'am, no, sir. Like, you have a business too. I'm sure you want your money up front. So the same here. But of course, things happen, case by case difference. But I definitely keep it across the board for everybody. I try to keep it across the board for everybody.
So you said you take a payment up front or 4 weeks before the event.
Yeah,
what was
yeah,
the
yeah. So, for example, like if somebody was to hit me today about an event that they would have, let's say, what's today? What's today's date? Like the 17th?
February 17th?
Yeah, today's
Mhm.
17th. So say like if somebody wanted me to do an event, let's just say for example, I'll use my birthday, March 22nd. We know that's about what, roughly 3 or 4 weeks. So if they was to hit me today about that event, I would say, okay, I would need a deposit due maybe the first week of March. Well, let's say the 6th. Well, no, March 22nd falls on what? A Sunday this year. So let's say the first then. Your deposit would be due the first, which is 4 weeks prior to your event. If I'm looking at the calendar correctly, I should probably pull up a calendar. Whatever. Let's say your payment is due 3 weeks prior to, which is March 1st, and then your final payment will be due either the 15th, which is a week prior to your event, or it will
Mhm.
be due the day of. I used to say the day of, but then people had a lot of stuff to do the day of, so it was kind of
Mhm.
like I don't want that to be another pressure on you because last minute things do pop up. So I would just
Mhm.
say a week prior to, or even that Wednesday before, which would have been what, 22nd, 21, 20, 19, which would be like the 18th, just so
Mhm.
everything can make sure we're good to go. Because even though I'm a DJ and yes, this is my business, I also still have a full-time job. So I have to make sure I'm not going to take off from my full-time job if you haven't finished making your deposit or finished making your payment. Then it's like I'm missing out on money twice. Then I got to use vacation time because I, plan to be there for your event. And then if you haven't paid me, it's like, well, dang, I just used vacation time for no reason. So now it's like, well, let
Mhm.
me go back to work. So it's a balance between being a full-time worker and being an entrepreneur. So a lot of people just think, oh, I'm just supposed to up and come. And in some cases I can because I'm off. But in some cases where I work, my schedule kind of fluctuates. So sometimes I may be working four till like midnight, or sometimes I may be working 9:30 at night to like 6 in the morning. So it all depends. So that's why I like to give a time frame so that way I can make sure I'm there for your event and that everybody's all on one accord.
Mhm. So what happens if, okay, they give you the deposit. Let's use the same date. So they give you the deposit March 1st,
Mm-hmm.
and then their event is on the 22nd. So you're like the 15th, and I think those are great dates. And then also for a person who has planned a few events, if I've already paid my DJ, like you said, the 15th or the 18th prior to my event, then I'm like, okay, that's one less thing I got to worry about.
The day of, yep.
Yes. So what do you do? Matter of fact, I'm not thinking about paying anybody the day of. I don't want to even consider having to sit there and write checks or do accounting the
Mm-hmm.
day of my event. I want to enjoy my event.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do if they gave you uh, the deposit on the first,
Mm-hmm.
but then they didn't give the final payment
On
by
the
the
agreed
15th or the
agreed
18th?
date,
Yeah.
then I normally
Yes.
do a late fee. I charge a late fee. Now, for
Mhm.
some people, I know that things happen. So if they've come to me and said, that they had something come up, because we're all human. So I try to do it on
Mhm.
a 2 week basis because I know a lot of people get paid bi-weekly. So
Mhm.
where that works, because that works for me. So if they say, "Oh, I had something come up," or a family, then I'm understanding for that, and then I give them an extra day because I actually had that situation where it was a friend of mine, and she wanted me there for an event. She paid her deposit, which was fine, which locked her in. So I, blocked that off my calendar, and I told her, "Hey, the final payment is due this day." It was coming closer to that day. I even gave a reminder for her. Say, "Hey, excuse me, say, hey, it's coming up on this day. If you still need me, don't forget your payment is due this day, as a courtesy."
Mhm.
And then that day came and went, and then I didn't hear from her. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, you don't need me anymore. I'll just go to work. And so then the day came, and she was like, "Hey, what time are you coming?" And it's like, "Hey, what time you sending the payment? Because we talked about this, And
Mhm.
I was like, I didn't know if you still needed me because I never got that final payment. And then, she wanted to say, well, how does that work? We paid our deposit, da, da, da. And I said, I get that you paid your deposit. That locked your spot in. I didn't plan anything else on this day because I knew, you needed me. But at the same time, I also needed that final payment on this date. I gave you a reminder. You haven't told me anything else. So I'm under the impression you no longer need my services. I try to be there 2 hours prior to the event to make sure I set up, make sure I have everything I need, make sure everything works properly, make sure the sound sounds well, make sure I have, make sure everything's in place. I hate to be a last minute person. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, it's kind of like if your event started at 7 o'clock and it's already 3:45, now you're putting me in a bind because now I got to rush. I got to rush home, and Macon ain't really that big. So it's good that, we're in a smaller city because, I can just go. It only takes me 15 minutes to get home from work. You know what I'm saying? And whatever her event was in Macon. So it only took me 20 minutes to get there. You know what I'm saying? So I was blessed enough for it to be in a local area. But if this was something, out in Columbus or something like that, like we won't have an issue because then I'm going to have to charge you a little bit more because now I got to rush to get there. I got to rush to go home. It's a lot of factors in that. So, for that event, I went on and did the event for her. She went on and sent everything, and I went on and I was there and I told her and I had to tell him, I apologize if there was any miscommunication, but, this is what we talked about. You had the text, you agreed to it. We talked about it in person. You agreed to it. So I don't see where there was any miscommunication, but you always want to make sure you remain professional and you have good customer service, because that's one thing that's kind of like given on Black owned businesses is that we don't have good customer service. Like we want to sell something, but we don't know how to talk to people. You know what I'm saying? For me, I know how to talk to people, so it's kind of like I know how to talk to people, so you're not going to talk down on me as if I don't. But at the same time, we already have this mutual agreement of what's going on.
Hi, this is Sean Henry from Sean Henry's Becoming. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple, Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no listenership. It's everything you need to make in a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
So is the deposit non-refundable?
Yes, the deposit is non-refundable. Yes,
okay.
Ma'am.
Okay, because that locks in your okay.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, well, I'm glad that worked out, and it sounds like you did go above and beyond, for that event or that client too. So hopefully she recognizes that as well.
Yeah, because it's all about building relationships. I don't want it to be one thing happen and then it's like we lost our friendship. You know what I'm saying? Or we lost business together, doing business together because of one situation. Because I've done many events for that person. You know what I'm saying? So I know that that's a client that's always going to come back. You know what I'm saying? So as business owners, we also have to realize that as well. It's like sometimes we can make exceptions. Like everything's not just black and white. You know what I'm saying? Like we can make some exceptions for people because you have to also realize others' worth. You know what I'm saying? Like this client probably had me for maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe 3 events prior to this event. So I know she's always going to come back. And I also have to realize that as well. It's like, hey, I'll be there for you. I just need you to know, this is what it is. Yeah, we cool, but this is also my business. You know what I'm saying? So I'm a respect you, as my client, but I need you to also respect me as the person that you're hiring because, we all have things that we have to do. Like I said, that was a day that I had to be at work. So I would have to take off for work. So, you know what I'm saying? So it's just being able to have that balance. And we talked about balance kind of throughout this podcast today, and boundaries. So I was, able to amend that and, we're back cool again. And I'm sure they'll have me for another event.
Yeah. But I think also too, the professionalism with that as well, helped with that. Okay, so we spoke about, you have a full-time job and you're doing the DJing as your entrepreneurial business, and as that grows, then you'll decide whether or not you want to continue with your job or do be an entrepreneur full time.
Mm-hmm.
But so I think that's a great segue into my question about job shaming. So I see a lot on Instagram, people are constantly putting down people for having a traditional 9 to 5 job. And so they say, oh, you're building somebody else's uh, vision, and you need to build your own. However, because you said you're a solopreneur, so you are a one woman band basically. um, but as you grow, you may need someone to work for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people don't think about that part. So what is your opinion on job shaming?
Well, I don't believe in shaming anybody. I mean, we all work differently. What work for one may not work for another. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I had to learn that balance myself of balancing that full-time job versus and being an entrepreneur. So before I was a server, I've served one time when I used to serve, and I just left that job due to how management spoke. I'm whatever, due to how people speak to people. It's all about how you speak to
Mm-hmm.
people, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, they would be like, oh, you're just a server, you know what I'm saying, or you're just a supervisor, or you're just this, or you're just that. And it's kind of like, no, I'm not just anything, because this is my life, this is my job, this is how I make my money. So sometimes I want to ask people, like, where do you work, so I can come to your job and act the fool, just like you came to my job and act the fool. But we won't get into that too much. But
That then we start staging ourselves.
exactly. So it's kind of like, you can't just say anything, because this is a hustle. So now when I go out places, I now have a different outlook and a different view on service, because it's like, I know the type of service I gave. So I try to I expect that same, because I'm a good tipper, because but that's something else. But I get what you're saying in regards to job shaming, because a lot of a lot of people feel as if, oh, you're just this or you're just that. It's kind of like, no, like, this is how this person gets their money. So either respect the grind, respect the hustle, you know what I'm saying? And just kind of keep moving. Like, what are you doing to hustle? What are you doing for your money? You know what I'm saying? So hopefully I answered that question correctly for you.
No, it's not. Listen. There's no wrong or right answer. It's your opinion, absolutely, and I deeply agree. I am a good tipper as well. I did waitressing or serving. I love serving people, period, but in the capacity of tables. And so I know what that's about. I really don't know how. Oh, I wrote it down. I was about to say, I don't know how I remember those orders, but I wrote it down.
Oh, man,
But
when I got to the point where I didn't even have to write them down no more. I was remembering them
yeah,
off the top. I was gone.
I'm not that good, not that good. But but yeah, but what I don't like is that servers feel entitled. Like they feel like, oh, just because they came to work today, that you're supposed to tip them. And I'm like, I don't blame you for what comes out of the kitchen incorrectly, but I do hold you accountable
For
for
how
the
you
service or
delivered
lack
it
thereof.
and how you delivered it.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that's
So
and
I've,
that's a
I've
lot of times that's what they just feel. Because granted, as a server, and I don't know if this is everywhere, but where I'm at, service, we was only making like $2.13 an hour. So by the time you got your
hmm
check, that was already zeroed out, because based on your tips. Like I said, me
hmm
myself, I was a good ass server. You know what I'm saying? Once I got the concept down, because I know how to speak to people, it came natural. So even though something may happen in the kitchen, when I'm presenting it to my customer, you know what I'm saying, it's on a level of understanding, like, hey, Mr. or Mrs., so this is what we got going on. I'm a very transparent person. And being transparent is definitely key, because even in my current job, I'm not going to, speak on what that is now, but even in
hmm
my current
hmm
job, you have to be transparent. Like, I'm a supervisor now. So I have to be transparent with those who look up to me, because that's what they're looking. They're looking for honesty. If you don't do nothing else, you got to be honest with people, and let them know whether or not they're doing it right or doing it wrong, or where you can help them grow from it. So for me as a server at the time, a lot of my coworkers, they'll be like, well, how come Sam get 4 or 5 sections, how come she get 4 or 5 tables and all of this? And it's like, because I can keep up with it. You can't come in here and complain as a server because you're getting set. Like, we're here to make money. It's like, you either gonna make money or you gonna complain. You gotta pick a L, sis. And me, myself, I came here to make money, not necessarily friends. You can talk in between, but I'm here to make my money. So some days you can come in and making $110. Some day you may come in and making $50. But the mindset is what keeps you going, because it's more than what you had. If you gonna complain all the time, well, I've been here since 10 o'clock. I ain't made no money. It's 4 o'clock. Well, sis, your attitude. Let's talk about your attitude. How can we change that? Because that's probably the reason why you haven't made no money, because people can sense that. You know what I'm saying? Me, it's more than what I came in here. Whatever it is, it's more than what I had. So that's the mentality that I'm gonna look at it as.
You have dropped some jewels during this podcast. I'm really enjoying this conversation.
Yeah, we
I really am.
have to do lunch or something, so we can just have just a life conversation or something, just to
Hey,
just to
I'm
have
all
it,
for
just
it.
to have it.
I'm all for it. Yeah, you can show me around Macon.
Nah,
There
you
might
don't
be some
want to come down
property
here. Ain't
down there. I
nothing
want
down
to.
here, Sean. You got
Hey, it might be some property down there. I want to buy. I'm looking
Oh,
in LaGrange right
there you
now. So
go.
yeah,
There you go. Hey, business opportunities.
I'm always available for opportunities. So okay, we're gonna start wrapping up, but I wanted to ask you a couple of key questions. The next question is about the gross versus net narrative. So I I want you to, because I read your response, so I definitely want you to talk about that. So the gross versus net narrative, people are basically hyping up, what they made, but they're not talking about what they had to pay out. So what is your opinion on that?
Oh, it's big. I didn't realize how expensive DJing was until I got into it.
Hmm.
Because when you think about it, they'd be like, "Oh, yeah, you're making money because you're booking events." Oh, excuse me, but what you don't realize is that that's still probably paying up some of the stuff that I had to put out for. So my first set of speakers, yeah, they were given to me at a low price from a DJ who upgraded his speakers. But then eventually I had to upgrade those speakers in about, a few months, which then those turned up to be, $500, $600. So then some people are like, oh, well, that's just one event. But then you also have to consider the money, the gas, to get to these events. You also have to consider, like the laptop, the internet, the terabyte, the hard drive, the speaker stands. It's different things into it. And I'm sure, like I said, I'm just an entry level DJ. So I'm sure the other DJs that's more experienced, I'm sure they have way more equipment, than I have. So I have to keep, my 9 to 5 job to be able to support my entrepreneurship. And that's what you have to realize. Your 9 to 5 is supposed to be able to fund, this one until it can fund itself. So for me, it's a matter of budgeting. So that's one thing my mom is teaching me is budgeting. So that's what I'm learning is, okay, I can put, a few monies towards this, few money towards bills, and be able to still support this. So now, like for around Christmas or my birthday or something like that, my mom be like, well, what do you want? And I'm looking at, okay, well, what do I need for my DJ equipment? What do I need for my business versus what I want? Because as an entrepreneur, your mindset has to change. Me, my friends will tell you, like, when I started, when my money started rolling in, like I wanted to, when I started really moving, like I would be out getting Jordans like every week. Every time there was a release, oh, Scoob had the shoes, you know what I'm saying? Or I knew a plug that would get them for me, or I knew somebody that was getting them for me. And this probably started like around in high schoolish. I'm not high school, college, when I started, actually caring about things. Like I'm not a whole brand person. Like I don't have to wear, Louis Vuitton. I don't have to wear, polo every day, but I'm gonna look good. If none else look good, my shoes gonna look good.
Hmm.
So I was always out there getting shoes, and then I had to stop and realize, okay, with me being an entrepreneur, I'm not gonna be able to fund my business and still be able to have every brand new pair of shoes is coming out. So I had to rechange my mindset and refocus. Okay, you've been down this road before of you trying to start something and not all the way following through with it. So what's gonna make this time different? So I had to change my mindset and change my budgeting to say, okay, anytime I'm getting extra funds, if it's not going towards cutting down my debts, it's going towards my business. So I've been able to balance the two. And I know we mentioned books earlier. A book that I was reading was my mom put me on to him because she be listening to him. Dave Ramsey. She let me listen to Dave Ramsey. I think she was doing Peace University or Financial University. I can't remember the exact title of it. So I found one of his books in the store one day, and I just started reading it, and it was like, wow, this is real. So I started putting different monies towards either my debt or my business. So anytime I'm getting like an extra funds or anything, I haven't bought a pair of shoes, honestly. Shit, what, like a year and a half? I was just gifted some shoes, for Valentine's Day. And I bought, a $50 pair of shoes, like some Vans or something like that from, Journeys, because I needed it for an outfit. But like spending money on shoes like I used to, I don't do that anymore. And then somebody had just told me, she said, "You wearing Walmart shoes?" I was like, "Don't nobody know these Walmart shoes but you and me." You know what I'm saying? But they look like Vans. You know what I'm saying? They comfortable. I did that on. I had worn when I went to my cruise. It was just some comfortable shoes because I'm not gonna bring my nice shoes out on the cruise because mud, dirt, whatever the case may be. But I had went to Walmart and bought some little Walmart Crocs. But it's like, it's not about what's on your feet. You know what I'm saying? Your mindset charts the same. Granted, when I get there and it can afford itself, then I probably will go back to, buying shoes, often as I used to, and buying clothes as often as I used to. But, right now, because I know I'm in a growing season, I know that my money is going towards my business because granted, yeah, I'm charging people for services, but at the same time, I'm also putting out money in order to make sure I provide a good service. So
That's right. The priority change, and you have to have that quality prior to getting to that event.
I'm not.
So oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. You're good. You're good.
Avoiding burnout. What's your most rewarding part of entrepreneurship?
Most rewarding is just being able to see how happy people are. Like I told you all earlier, like DJ, you have to make sure you're spot on in regards to making sure people are enjoying themselves. So you have to realize that there's a time and place for everything. So whereas the wedding vibes may be different than, the house party vibes. You know what I'm saying? So it's being able to realize the type of crowd that you have and being able to realize, what type of aura or what type of energy you're trying to put out there. See, a lot of times people just want to play the mainstream stuff, but I'm the type of person, I want you to also hear the songs that doesn't have the star by it on Apple Music. You know what I'm saying? But they also good hits. Because a lot of times, good music gonna last forever. So it's kind of like, as long as you can, blend that in right. Me, I'm not too big on the spinning part yet or the scratching part yet, because that's still something that I'm learning. But in regards to blending things and, realizing the different samples, it's just awesome to hear. Once you hear a song, I'm like, yo, I just heard this. What did I hear from? What did I hear from? And then it's like, oh yeah, that's that one song. And then you start to spin it together and you're like, that is awesome. I did that. You start hyping up yourself. Sometimes when I be practicing, I be like, yo, whoa, yo, why you do it like that? You didn't even have to do it like that. Like, you did not have to do that. But then it's kind of like, when I put that out there and I have these different events, I can go in there thinking I'm prepped and ready and knowing what songs I'm about to play, and then it can go complete shits because that's not what's there. Like I just did like a birthday trap and paint party for a client, and I went in there, with all the trap music, you know what I'm saying, all the hip hop from now, and then I get to the venue and it's an older crowd. Like it's like they're like in their late 30s, early 40s, some may be a little older, and I'm like, well, they really not gonna know all this. So I had to readjust, my whole set, and throw some old school hip hop in there. You know what I'm saying? Like Bone Thugs and Harmony and Bone Crusher, and all the old school cats. And it's like, all right, so I had to be quick on my feet. So that's one thing as a DJ is like you can go in there and have a whole set planned out, but then when you get there, it's different, and it's like, wow, all right, think quick on your feet. What you got going on? So whereas I had the new school people and everybody that the young folks listened to because it was a trap and paint, then I have to go in there and I had to change all of that. I had to go in there playing Dougie Fresh and Sugar Hill Gang and Mobb Deep and Big Daddy Kane and all of them, Rakim and all of them, Tribe Called Quest. I had to go in there with a different mindset. Okay, now I need to go back to the '90s and the '80s hip hop, versus today's hip hop. So that's one thing as a DJ is being able to see your crowd and realizing, okay, you're gonna have to change it up. So granted, I just didn't play all the old school junks. I also had to play some of the new school and kind of, blend it all together. So that one was actually probably one of the best events I have done because I seen my growth at that point. I was like, oh, this is it. This is where I'm supposed to be because this is not what I originally came in with the mentality of. I had to change this right on my feet, and I was able to do that successfully. You know what I'm saying? So that was probably one of the dopest events I did, and I was glad I was able to be there and look out good for those people there.
Absolutely. But that's all about being an entrepreneur, being able to pivot.
There you
So
go.
yeah, so that's good. So what made you was it the trap part of the paint is what made you?
Yeah, so let me tell you. So when right before the event, probably a couple of days before the event, I went on like YouTube and looked up trap and paint. I've never been to a trap and paint myself. So I had to look up what did that look like? You know what I'm saying? And so every video that had popped up on YouTube was young people like drinking and painting. And I was like, oh, I can do that. These my folks. I can do that. This is my age group. I can do this. I can do this. And then when I get there, it's like it's not. It's not my age group. You know what I'm saying? He's like my uncles and my aunties in here. Like I gotta play music that they know. You know what I'm saying? That they can vibe to. So when I seen that crowd, and I don't know if y'all can follow me on Instagram, y'all can see one of those clips, and it's like, oh, they lit, and it's like, oh, that's the trap and paint right there. And so now it's kind of like I'm me and the brand I was letting you know about Levy. We're trying to go ahead and get something like that together, to promote both of our businesses and get something popping because that was a really good experience that I enjoyed that I want everybody to experience there.
Okay, since you put it out there, and I usually ask this at the end anyway, how can people get in contact with you if they need your services or want your services?
Gotcha. So on IG, I just started the page because I did have a personal IG. Then I realized, to separate the two because I had a lot of personal stuff on my personal one. So my business IG is call me underscore Scoob SCOOB DJ. So call me underscore Scoob the DJ on IG and on Facebook. If you just search Scoob SCOOB, you'll definitely see my logo, my brand. It'll pop up and you'll be like, "Up, there she go," and you'll find it right there. You know what I'm saying? And then if you need, email. A lot of people do email. Email, of course, is going to be booking.djscoob@gmail.com. You can definitely contact me on any of those, and I'll definitely get right back to you.
Okay. Now that, like, again, I put that at the end, but since you had mentioned it, I wanted to go ahead and put that out there.
Yes.
We got just a couple of more questions. So what is one action a new business owner can do to get past the stagnant phase?
For action for a new business owner, like in regards to DJs or just business owners?
That's fine. You could
DJs.
either one. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, for DJs, just to practice. It kind of comes as you practice. So one of the DJs that I was kind of like he was giving me some critiques on, he was just saying, at least if you practice like 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, as long as you're devoting time to your craft, because it's just not going to happen overnight. Like me, I'm not the I'm not gonna say I'm the best DJ, but I can say that with me practicing and spending time on it, I have become a better one. And then getting feedback. It's okay to get feedback. Like I was even if you're not a DJ, just as an entrepreneur or as a business owner, it's okay to get feedback, constructive criticism and things of that nature, so that way you'll know what can you work on to be better in the future. So that's one thing that I have learned to do, is ask people for feedback. Okay, what you think about this? And not to say that you have to take it, and run with it, but you can take it into consideration to say, okay, I see where they was coming from. Get a couple of people's opinions who you trust, even if it's somebody, just randomly, just being able to get that feedback. Because me, I thought I could do it all by myself, and that's one thing that I'm still realizing, is that your opinion, yeah, it matters because you have the final say so, but it's okay to get other inputs on different things. It's okay to get other people's mindset, just to see how you can mish that in with what you have.
Very true. So, and that's all a part of the growth as well. So you can't, if you could do it all by yourself, then, you would be successful by yourself. But
Right.
we need people. We need
Yep.
people.
You need people to get
You
them.
need your clients, and they need you to bring the party. So,
There you go.
and along the way, you need, like, you've leaned on other DJs with your equipment, selling you the equipment, helping you get started, and just like you said, the feedback is very important.
Hmm.
Um, so
And
one of
falling
our
in love with just not the W's either, and that's one thing I had to realize, is like every up moment is good, but you also have to be there for yourself as a business owner and as an entrepreneur, even when business isn't booming, even when it's not good. It's okay. Like, use that opportunity and use that time to grow, and use that time to work on your craft and things of that nature. Like, everything's not gonna be a W. Like, you gonna take some L's as a business owner, whether that's financially or anything. You want to take an L as well, so you gonna have to be grateful for those as well. We all gonna have our moments. I mean, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, all of them. They are big, but I'm sure they also had their ups and down moments as well. So in order for us to get to those statuses and those ranks, it's okay. We're gonna fail at some things, and it's just being okay to learn from those, and moving forward from those as well.
Absolutely. What so our last question of the interview is, what are entrepreneurs born or made? What's your opinion on that?
Entrepreneurs being born or made? That's a
Mm-hmm.
good question, man. That's a good question. I remember when I was reading that, I was like, "Oh, she trying to get me thinking out here."
Just a little bit,
She trying to get me, she trying to moving my brain there. But for me, I would say that they are made because they come from what you've been through. They come through, those humbling times, those experiences. So if I'm not mistaken, I believe I put, like, we all have choices. Like, we have choices and decisions to make. So can everybody be an entrepreneur? I'm sure they can, but successfully, can we all do it? No. I think it's something you have to want. I think, some people don't want to be in the limelight. Some people don't want to work, and that's fine. Some people prefer to listen to other people and get orders, and that's okay. Like I said, my background is in social work. Like, I have my bachelor's and master's in social work. So for me, I've always been into, reading people and understanding people. So it's kind of like, everybody has different experiences. So some people, they're fine with being a boss. They want to be in control. Some people, they rather just be, in the limelight, and they don't want all that pressure on them. So for an entrepreneur, I think it goes the same way. Some people, they rather just go to businesses versus creating their own business. My mentality now is, like, why watch it when you can do it yourself? You know what I'm saying? If you can do it yourself, then go ahead and go for it. So I'm the type, hey, what you trying to do? All right, how can I help you get that? So let's have your own. You know what I'm saying? So changing that mentality, I don't think that came born, because back in the day, if you would have asked my younger self, did I want to be an entrepreneur? The answer would have been no. You know what I'm saying? But then as you experience things, your mindset it starts to change. So it's kind of like later on, I wanted to become an entrepreneur, and here we are. So that's why I said I feel like they are made and not necessarily born.
Mm, I like that. I always love hearing everybody's uh opinion on that question. But it does take a lot of strength, just like you said, and a lot of self-talk, positive
Mm-hmm.
self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
What you're saying to yourself to lift yourself up, and knowing that sometimes you're the only person there to uh, dry your tears and pat you on the back, all of those things. So it can be very lonely at times, but it is
That
very
it can, that it
rewarding.
can, and I remember I was just I remember having conversations with myself, and even just reposting. So the person who like made my logo, and the one who makes my flyers and stuff, Ariance Parker, y'all can hook her up, and she'll get you right there. But even then, when I was reposting it, and I had to think to myself like, ain't no, if I'm not my biggest fan, who else gonna be my fan? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're not gonna support yourself, how can we expect others to support you? So I have to realize, even if I'm the only one reposting it, it's gonna reach somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, and if it's a problem, like for other people, I had to get into that mentality, that selfish mentality to say, okay, if somebody has a problem with me reposting my business, then we don't need to be friends, because at that point, I don't think you're supporting me, because it's like, oh, why you keep posting that? Why you keep posting? And it's like, it's my business. How else is the business gonna get out there? I'm not Walmart, like, when everybody know automatically to come to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have to get it out there, and the only reason that's gonna get out there is if I promote myself. So, like I said, I'm a solo. What you said, a solopreneur. That's how you use a
Mm-hmm.
solopreneur. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just me. So I'm gonna have to be the one that's gonna have to get out there and network and be able to build relationships with people. One of my good friends from college, she started her own. She has many businesses by far. She has something called Pink Talks now, and then she got her own podcast coming on. So with her, she did my business cards. And so it's like being able to keep those healthy relationships where it's like, oh, I know somebody that got that service. Let me go ahead and reach out to them. And that's me supporting their business. And then in return, they're supporting my business because they're reposting it as well. So it's all about, supporting one another, like we talked about earlier. It's just being there for each other, so that way we can always win. We can all win. We can all do this.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm not even going to ask you to shout out the businesses, because you have shouted out so many businesses. It's a list of them, and I'll be sure to hashtag all of them or at all of them when I post for your
Yeah, yeah. I want to give everybody credit. We
and
we
there's
all out
nothing
here
wrong with
working
that.
hard. We
Yeah,
all working hard.
there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, and you had asked me, do I just have to pick just one? And no, as many as you want to, but I like the way that you incorporated them within your interview, so that it's not, or within our conversation, so it's not like you went through the your Rolodex and just shouted out all these different people. So
Hmm.
um definitely appreciate that for sure. And then the book that you wanted to um
Shut up.
uh yeah, the book
Yeah.
that helped your business grow. Go ahead.
Yeah, the book that kind of helped me, not even just as a business or entrepreneur, but as an individual. The book was and some people may have read it, and somebody put me on it, was The Four Agreements. I think his name was like Don Ruiz,
Hmm. Don
Miguel
Miguel.
Ruiz. Don,
Hmm.
yeah, Don Miguel Ruiz. I always mess up his names.
Hmm.
But that was definitely the one that's at the top of my list. And The Four Agreements was pretty much just be impeccable with your words. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. And what was the last one? The last one was, oh, and always do your best. So those were like the four main agreements. And it's pretty much just saying, like, for example, being impeccable with your words. Like, just speak highly of yourself. Speak with integrity. Like, say what you mean and mean what you say. Like, you don't have to speak against yourself. Just putting out, like, kind of what we talk about with the mantras, putting yourself out there. Speaking in truth, just bringing out that positive energy. Um, the other one was don't make assumptions. So just finding out the communication with others. So one of the chapters he pretty much talked about was a lot of times when people are hashing out at you, it's not that anything that you've done, but it's something that they haven't dealt with themselves. So don't take it personal. And that kind of blended in with the don't take anything personal, because all of us have been through something. So whereas my experiences may be different from your experiences, but when someone speaks on something, that might be a red flag for them, and then they can just go off limb, and it's like now we being negative towards each other. But it's kind of like, no, don't take it personal. Like maybe it's just something that they haven't dealt with, at the time. So being able to be patient and then kind of to wrap all that up is just always doing your best. Like no matter what you're doing, just making sure you put your best foot forward. You know what I'm saying? Just avoiding self-doubt, avoiding regret, avoiding, judgment on yourselves, because we are our biggest critics. So
Mm-hmm.
just being able to make sure you always put your best foot forward.
And we spoke about that too.
Yep, we spoke on
Speaking
those too. There you go.
positively over yourself. So yeah, Scoob, this has been an amazing episode. I really do appreciate the time that you've taken out to drop all these jewels. Clearly we can talk for hours.
Hey, it cut us
just
off, so we can do this.
just about life and everything, and so I greatly appreciate it. So tell us one more time, how can we contact you for any of our parties or any of our celebrations where we need you to be the soundtrack for that event.
Gotcha. Yeah. So on Facebook, you can type in at Booking Scoob, Scoob, or you can just type in Scoob and you'll see a lovely logo right there. It'll be with my locks and some headphones and a face. And don't forget the nose ring right there, the septum piercing, because that's definitely me. So Scoob on Facebook, or you can go on IG and type in call me underscore Scoob Da DJ, and you'll see us pop right back up. And then, of course, the email address for those of you who still follow and use the email, we got booking.djscoob@gmail.com.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Hey, you keep doing what you're doing. More power to you, Queen. And you just keep doing what you're doing out here for the community. We definitely appreciate it.
Thank you.
No
You.
problem.